On Tuesday, December 9th, 2025 at 7:42 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber, which has been duly noticed in 2 places, including the city's website in accordance with the requirements of 91A. The prayer will be offered by City Clerk Dan Healy, and Alderman Moran will lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty to manage the affairs of our beloved city. Fill us, O God, with a spirit of unity and understanding, which enables us to face our multiple problems with a serene mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will always be for the betterment and greater happiness of all our fellow citizens. So help us God. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance, please.
Alderman O'Brien.
Present.
Alderman Gregg.
Here.
Alderman Moran.
Here.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Here.
Alderman Govea.
Here.
Alderman Lopez.
Here.
Alderman Sullivan.
Here.
Alderman Clements. Alderman Senate.
Here.
Alderman Jetty.
Here.
Alderman Thibaut.
Here.
Alderman Clee.
Here.
Alderman Dowd.
Present.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Here.
Alderman Wilshire.
Here.
14 present, 1 absent.
And Alderman Clements had a work commitment, so he will not be here this evening. Also joining us is Mayor Jim Donches and Corporation Counsel Steve Bolton. Mayor, did you wish to address the board this evening?
Yes, Madam President. First, I wanted to address the very major fire which occurred on Ash and Vine Streets last week. This is the biggest fire that we've had in a long, long time. The fire department, of course, responded with full force. The fire had started about 7 a.m. and they had it under control within an hour or two. But it totally burned out one building. I guess really burned out two buildings, one on Ash, one on Vine. Firefighters did a great job. They were assisted by many departments from around the area, Lowell, Manchester, Hudson, Merrimack, Hollis, Pelham, just everywhere. Also, our public health department and emergency management did a great job in assisting the 30 people or so who lost their homes as a result of the fire to find a different place to go. And Public Works also helped out in clearing out the area because there was a lot of water and many of the drains had been clogged with snow and things or other debris, and they responded and helped make sure that everything got cleaned out. The fortunate thing was that no one was killed in the fire, and one firefighter received minor injuries, but otherwise the firefighters were injury-free. So just a great job by everyone in a very hazardous and very serious situation. And we want to thank our public employees for this and for everything else that they do. I wanted to also thank Alyssa O'Mara for doing the presentation today and for the stroll. She's new on the job, of course, as you just heard. Her enthusiasm for Nashua's downtown is really infectious, and I think she's really added a lot to what was called Great American Downtown, now called Nashua Downtown Association. And the stroll itself, I know some of you were there, was, as she described it, I thought quite good. The path of the stroll had been altered in order to to make sure, to reduce the number of police officers by 8 who needed to be called out, ordered to come in and be present. And of course, we were able to use the riverfront in the way she described, the new pavilion and stage. And I, too, received a lot of positive comments about the new location and about just the park in general. So I think it was a good time, and I Hopefully next year we can even do better, but it was really an exceptional event, I think. Madam President, I did want to mention, and I was asked to do this by Spectacle Management and by the Nashua Center for the Arts. They are holding a festival, a La Sensei Festival, on January 17th. And this is a festival that is originated in Puerto Rico and unofficially marks the end of the holiday season. It has apparently spread from Puerto Rico to other nearby locations, Texas, Florida, and the like. This will be the first time that it's been celebrated in the Northeast. So Spectacle Management, of course, and Peter Lally, who run the center, are partnering with Jasmine Torres to put on this festival, which will feature live music, Latin cuisine, a lot of art, and the 12-piece salsa band El Grupo Chivete will headline the evening, and there will be local musicians as well. So they're very excited about the event. It will have an admission price of $25. Tickets went on sale on the 5th, last Friday. I think that'll be an interesting first for the city of Nashua. I did want to address a few of the items that were on the agenda tonight, Madam President. The emergency purchase order, which is on the agenda, doesn't really have to be voted on, but we put it on there that way anyway. I want to make it clear, because there's been a kind of a misunderstanding. The project is under budget. The budget is $21 million, and right now, $1,800,000 less than that budget has been spent. And we estimate that another $900,000 will be required to finish the work. But in the end, the project will come in at less than the budget and is currently far less than the budgeted amount. So that, I think, is a misunderstanding. There are two different budgets. There's the operating budget and the capital budget, and there's been some confusion between them. Also, just so we discussed this at some length at the Finance Committee. So Ms. Hannum, the Director of Economic Development, was attempting to negotiate, and Dan, the city engineer, were trying to negotiate with the landscaper, Morin, they were doing great work, but there was a final purchase order, final amount of work that needed to be done. And Ms. Hannum went to the Infrastructure Committee and explained this in August, that there would be a final purchase order. And in the end, Morin's wanted $310,000. They continued to negotiate. They negotiated, extended the negotiations to get the price down, which, as I sit in the aldermanic chamber and in finance, usually the aldermen applaud that, to get the price down. It took a few weeks to get a lower price, but they negotiated the price from $310 to $268. But those negotiations were not concluded till the 19th of November, 6 days before the stroll. And the effort was to get the thing done so that we could have the stroll. Without that final work, final landscaping and the sodding and everything, you couldn't really hold it there. And Ms. Hannum didn't even see the final purchase order, which had been signed by the city engineer, until after the finance meeting. So it didn't get to the Finance Committee. But the choices were either just pay the $310, forget the savings, or cancel the stroll, or do what we did. So I think we did the only practical approach, which we went ahead and I signed this purchase order. There has been a comment that the budget should be more clearly explained on the website. I think that's a legitimate point, which we will try to do, but the project is under budget, way under budget, and is overall going very well, I think, and the end result, I think, shows how well it's been managed. And, Madam President, as a final item, you and I discussed the possibility of holding a non-public today because we'd like to brief the aldermen on the lease negotiations concerning the resource center, because I know many people have been asking. It's taking a little longer than we'd like, but we can give you the details. This will be handled by I and Steve Bolton, although Celia Leonard has been very involved. She couldn't make it tonight, but we are certainly aware of what progress has been made and what the parties are discussing. So hopefully we can do that tonight, and you can hear where we are with that. And with that, Madam President, I will conclude.
Attorney Bowman?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, may I make a small correction? We are
Yes.
not recommending a non-public session for that discussion. We are recommending consultation with counsel following the adjournment of the Board of Aldermen's meeting.
Stand corrected on that.
Response to the remarks of the mayor? I'm going to start over here. Alderman Lopez.
So I was out of the country, actually, on my honeymoon when the buildings burned, and it was very distressful. Just watching it from a distance and seeing firefighters going in and the size and the scope of it as seen by the neighbors. I think I really want to commend Nashua Fire and Rescue for responding so quickly. I mean, I know they're around the corner, but like they threw everything they could at it. They brought in mutual aid, and I don't think anybody can even consider anything other than that being a maximum effort. And I think that was very much appreciated by the neighbors around that fire. This is something we've been afraid of in the inner city neighborhoods for years. Whenever people are launching fireworks because they're celebrating something which are prohibited in the city, whenever we're talking about the unsheltered, I bring up people who stay in abandoned buildings or occupy cellars or something to try to stay warm will try to stay warm, and that's a risk. And this is what we're talking about. We're talking about dense neighborhoods of very old buildings that will very, very rapidly go up. And that puts our firefighters' lives in danger. That puts all of our city staff, in crisis mode. That puts neighbors, wondering what their safety is going to be like. And now it's displaced families and, even injured people. So it's something we need to be mindful of when we talk about things like how we budget for code enforcement, how we support the Office of Emergency Management, and how we coordinate all those resources, because, we had to call everything into play this time, but we can't keep dodging that bullet. I want to thank the mayor particularly for reaching out to me, because I was in honeymoon, I was in a cruise ship, and somehow he got through. Like, I didn't have cell phone service. I got a text from the mayor, and I was like, well, all right, then. So I purchased the cell phone plan from that point. But I want to thank him for that outreach. I did put out an observation I've had from other crisis incidents, which I can't say I'm necessarily qualified to, override any other opinions on, but I think the city should look at when you have an event happening in a very dense neighborhood and you're going to have resident or neighborhood observation or participation, we should try to roll a bus or something up that people can gather in or identify as an incident command center. It was pointed out to me that the Elm Street warming station was available, but the Elm Street warming station is designed for a different purpose. We know that those numbers are unpredictable, and that staff could be dealing with anyone from 15 to 100 people at any point. And it's a couple blocks away, and if there's another crisis, and it's not in that immediate neighborhood with that proximity, it would behoove the city to have a couple of identifiable partners that could say, okay, I don't know, we're the PAL Center, we can open, and we're on a list of people that are ready to be a community rallying point. So I think it is something that should be looked at. It's not a criticism, because I don't sit in on the emergency management meetings. I don't know all the details that are involved. But I think it would be good for us to look at, if there's a crisis within an area, where is the designated response or rally point? Same way every family has if the fire alarm goes off, meet over here. I think it would be helpful. I also just want to briefly comment on, I think the leadership and the way that the mayor has very carefully outreach to the community and made them aware of this has not only led to a better sense of security in the community that, okay, this is being handled and our city's not holding back anything, we're on this, but it's also galvanized a lot of public support. People really identified and connected with not only the families that are being displaced over the holidays, but a lot of the artists that were, had studios and the other people that were affected. They're reaching out and they're supporting them. So I think it's a good example of where the city leads, the city's citizens will follow. So I want to commend the efforts that the mayor made to get on the scene, to report directly what was going on, and to really make sure people knew how to get involved and what could be done. Thank you.
Madam President?
Mayor?
So I was wondering, I texted Alderman Lopez. Usually he's texting me like seven times on anything that happens in the hood, and I hadn't heard anything from him. There's this big fire, and now I understand why. You were on your honeymoon. You weren't even around, so I didn't
hardly
get
ever
that.
happens.
What? I didn't get that till right now.
See how far Placer AI can reach.
Thank you.
Anyone, Alderman Senate?
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to expand upon something that Alderman Lopez had brought up in regard to the community togetherness in supporting the folks who have been displaced. He had briefly mentioned the artists in the neighboring building. There was a lot of musical studio space. And just to localize it a little bit, I want to commend Eleanor Luna, who operates a similar space out of the facilities down the end of Haines Street in Crown Hill, who has really opened her doors to those musicians who lost everything, not just the space that they rehearse in or record in, but all their equipment, and has really kind of rolled out the red carpet for them to afford them space to get back up on their feet. Because while some of them may be hobbyists who just pursue this as something to enrich their lives, a lot of people see it as the source of their livelihood. So for them to have a quick turnaround, have a place to go, and somebody supporting them like that, I think is really commendable.
Alderman Clee?
Thank you, Madam President. I too was going to touch upon the artists. I know there are artists that have lost tens of thousands of dollars in equipment. I think one person actually mentioned something in the neighborhood of $70,000 in equipment, and that is their livelihood and not just a hobby. It's so not only there are people that have lost everything. One person mentioned that they had a family, and as I think they referred to it as, it was hell. They just had to gather their family and left everything behind, including their cars. Lost their vehicles too. So this Christmas spirit, I know there's some GoFundMe campaigns out there. Just be careful. Make sure that you know who you're donating to. But I think the ones that I've seen have all been legitimate and so on. So I think this time of year it's really important to dig in and do what you can, whether it be through adopting a family so that they can have some kind of Christmas and so on. And I want to commend the city, and I want to mention the mutual aid. I had always thought mutual aid was just another fire truck showing up, but it's more than that. When our firefighters are out there fighting something so large, that means other areas of the city are left unprotected, and that's when these cities come in. Places like Hollis come in and man phones and do things and so on. So when we look to the communities and we give mutual aid, it's a variety of different jobs that they're taking on, and I know that we give a lot of mutual aid as well, but it's always nice to have that there. And if I may, I'd like to kind of elaborate on something that my colleague from Ward 4 had mentioned about command center and so on. I think it would be great, and maybe emergency management already has this, but when there's certain localities, such as what happened over at Sky Meadow, the hotel there opened up their doors, and that became kind of where people could go to find their loved ones and so on. And I think if we had something similar to that throughout the city, of just a place that we can call real quick and say, can people go there to find their loved ones and so on, I think that would be a great thing. And again, I truly love this city, and when a disaster like this happens, having so many people that have come together, let's just not forget about it when the memory goes away. So thank you.
Alderman Dowd?
Yeah, just to follow up from Alderman Clee's comments, a couple of people asked me what happens when there's a fire and all our trucks are down in one spot. Well, not only do we have 6 or 7 other cities and towns cover and actually do the firefighting at the site, but other towns sent trucks to cover our stations. So if there's a fire, all the stations are covered and have a truck that can respond. So I know some people are concerned about that.
All set? Okay. Recognition period.
None.
Reading minutes of previous meetings.
None.
Communications requiring only procedural actions and written reports from liaisons.
Communication has been received from Liz Hannum, Economic Development Director, regarding follow-up to clarifying questions regarding the Riverwalk memo to Finance Committee on 12/3/2025. Communication has been received from Laurie Wilshire, Board of Aldermen President, regarding the Inauguration Committee. And communication has been received from Sam Durfee, AICP Planning Manager, regarding findings relative to the request for waiver of impact fees for Phase 1 of the Maynard Homes redevelopment project.
There being no objection, I'll accept the communications and place them on file. Without objection, I will suspend the rules to allow for a communication that was received after the agenda was prepared.
Communication has been received from Bobby Bagley, Division of Public Health and Community Services Director, regarding requests by Budget Review Committee on proposed cost of operations of the Resource Center.
There being no objection, I will accept the communication and place it on file. Period for public comment relative to items expected to be acted upon this evening. We have 7 individuals who have signed up. The first is Matt Sullivan.
Good evening, board members. For the record, Matt Sullivan, Community Development Director. I'm here this evening on behalf of R25-230 that will arise further on your agenda this evening. And this is related to the first set of amendments to development agreements associated with the Maynard Homes redevelopment. And specifically this evening, you'll be asked to consider first and second reading of this piece of legislation. I wanted to quickly tell you why. And I know there are 2 speakers after me this evening that will quickly address this matter from their perspective as well. But as you may recall, just about a month ago, this board actually approved R25-197, the development agreements associated with Maynard Homes, a public-private partnership between the City of Nashua, Tremont Development Partners, and the Nashua Housing and Redevelopment Authority. You may not recall the specific details of those development agreements, and there are 2 because there's a 4% tax credit project and a 9% tax credit project. But there were several terms that sort of formed the basis of the, quote, deal between the City of Nashua and the Housing Authority. There's fee waivers, there's some substantial public improvements related to recreation, and in fact there was a payment in lieu of taxes agreement that was scheduled to extend between out until the year 2041. Ultimately, over the past weeks and really the last month, based on a variety of factors, including the closing process, information learned from the financing entities, and of course the federal government shutdown. Working with the Housing Authority, there were some issues identified with the payment in lieu of tax terms that had been agreed to as part of all the parties in that development agreement. As a result, all the parties huddled together in the interest of getting this project closed this year and the redevelopment of Maynard Homes on Burke Street underway, and ultimately R25-230 was drafted. And what it really does in simple terms at a very high level is 3 things. One, it extends the payment in lieu agreement by an additional year out until 2042. Prior, this payment in lieu of tax agreement went until 2041. It introduces an escalation payment in tax year 2041 that basically provides for additional tax revenue for the City of Nashua as a result of the redevelopment of the property. And finally, it commences the pilot agreement payments a year earlier. So again, we're extending the agreement by a year, we're commencing the payments a little bit earlier, and we're adding an additional escalation payment into the payment in lieu of tax agreement. Those are really the 3 core ideas that are addressed. There are a couple other minor changes that I don't want to call them Scrivener's adjustments, but they're not substantive. They have no impact on the relationship between the city and the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. But those 3 core principles I wanted to talk about in the context of first and second consideration this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions when the legislation arises, but I know that Tom Monahan, a board member for the Housing Authority, and Rich Mizaki of Tremont Development Partners are here this evening, but we're asking for your support on this as a cooperative effort between the city and the Housing Authority, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have once this item arises. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Olano?
Lori Ortolano, 41 Berkeley Street. You have a whole slew of resolutions here that were addressed in a hearing on December 4th regarding assigned fund balance. And I stayed for about half that meeting. It was quite long. I was not a proponent of a lot of this except for the resource center. I have a lot of concerns with how we're budgeting, and I learned a lot about assigned fund balance and unassigned fund balance. I think this city is operating more like a for-profit corporation. In having these two fund balances, most nonprofits have a single fund balance, in my opinion, that is there to cover the requirements or covenants of a bank to do bonding or obtain loans, and that makes sense. A lot of for-profit companies have two fund balances because they have obligations to their bank covenants, and then they have the ability to share profits or the owners get profits, and that comes from this assigned fund balance. But we do it here in City Hall and in this municipality, and I just have fundamentally a problem with that type of money management. I don't think the budget, we're 5.5 months past the budget cycle. I don't think the budget is being done correctly to show us what needs to be spent or where all the fixes are. The, almost $1 million roof repair, not up for it. $3 million for a special education trust fund. Let that come at the end of the year. I think that's fine. Also, I have a lot of concerns, as you heard, about school buildings. We have far too many open school buildings that are very low on capacity, and it really affects the special education service. And I think that has to be considered when you're putting aside money, especially to deal with special education. I just heard a lot of things that were not right, and I want to address the civility of that meeting. I thought that meeting was so uncivil and hostile to people you don't like. And, I think it's time for the citizens to come out and be equally as uncivil to you, because the decorum of this chamber just doesn't exist the way I think it should. I know you expect a lot of your public, but you have to have high expectations for yourself. And when you put 10 resolutions into one meeting that constitute $8 million of spending, which is roughly 2% of your budget, had it been budgeted, it would have lifted the increase by about 2%. Now you're just shuffling and pulling it out of
30
this
seconds.
assigned fund balance. I just feel that anyone who comes forward has a right to make the statements they do. And I notice Alderman Dowd, he did not cut the people who addressed the resource center off when they went off track. But man, there was a group of us he could not wait to cut off. And I hope he does not chair the budget committee or any committee any longer in this city. It's time for new blood. Thank you.
Bob Keating?
Hello, my name is Bob Keating, 5 Coburn Woods Drive, and a member of Granite State Organizing Project. I want to speak about Resolution 212 and 213, and to lead in some encouraging things. I think the warming station has just opened relatively, early, and last week with the snowstorm and the fire, and this. Yesterday below zero temperature, so it's great that's happened, and also better sleeping arrangements too. So kudos to the Public Health Department for that. Secondly, encouraging news that heard about the COC, the $2 million that we get for essentially permanent housing, which means about 65 households in this. In our community, and 170,000 people throughout the United States was in great danger in terms of the new proposed guidelines, and they've taken the application down just in the last day or two. It's going to come back, but I think as a result of the advocacy and potential lawsuits that was coming up, that they even spoke about revisions in it. So it's an encouraging thing. I mean, it's a long way to go, and it could still end up in the same place, but it's good in that way. The Resource Center, itself, as I spoke, and a number of people spoke at the Budget Committee, that certainly it's a very encouraging thing. The concerns we have with the limited monies that, that are available, $300,000 when it comes to April 15th. Our warming station will be closed with our ordinance. You have the number of people being served there will not have a place at night. So I was encouraging and continue to say that about maximum flexibility with that money that would allow need be to stay at Elm Street. And I know there's negotiations for a particular place and have been for a while, but I'm concerned that if we have people during the day, that's good, but if we don't have a place for people to go, we're in a not good place. And finally, it's the larger project. I don't even know if there's I don't know if there's a title for that, but I'm calling it the 24/7 Center, which would allow for 24 hours, as it says. It would also have the ideas of permanent housing that could potentially be in there. So, and that's something I hope that there is room to move along that way and to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Bill Ferriero?
My name is Bill Ferriero. My home is number 35 Indian Rock Road. So I wanted to say some stuff about resolution number 216. This seems like a really good thing, and I hope that the people who were recently displaced from the mill yard are able to find better homes for themselves and their families because of this resolution. But there's clearly an error in the budget in this resolution. If you remember the other evening at the public hearing, the director of public health stood up and she was asked, how'd you come up with $300K? And she had a very detailed list. She didn't just make stuff up. She had a detailed list of the components that went into that budget estimate she had come up with. And she had values for each one of those. She had stuff like staffing, supplies, maintenance on the building, even rent on the building. And she clearly said $300K for 12 months. She had come up with a 12-month estimate to open that building and run that building. But we're 6 months into the budget season now. She should get a 6-month budget. If you budget accurately, she should get a 6-month budget. There's no way she can spend $300K in 6 months. So this $300K should be $150K. So she can adequately run and set up this resource center for 6 months. And then when the next budget season starts, she can come in and say, hey, I need $300K for 12 months. I need $800K for 12 months, whatever it is. So, I mean, we hear the aldermen sometimes talk about how they review the budget line by line, and they scrutinize every line of the budget. And when I know when some of the aldermen were campaigning before the last election, they were asked what their budget stance was going to be. And they talked about, well, we're going to look at every single dollar we spend and make sure we do it accurately. So this is kind of a no-brainer to fix this. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Monahan?
Good evening. Tom Monahan, 28 Swart Terrace, Nashua. Firstly, quickly want to thank the mayor and everybody in this room and others to get to the point where we are right now. And here we are asking for a second reading. But it's really important. The timing is critical. It even goes, tomorrow night is important. If there's a rate cut tomorrow night, we're gonna save some money and spend that money wisely, hopefully. But I'm here to talk about 25-230, and it's as a housing authority, there are different regulations by which we have to adhere to. Some are really good, some are very beneficial to the housing authority and to the city. And thankfully, once again, the mayor and his staff have stepped forward, and Matt Sullivan, Tim Cummings and Celia, Steve Bolton, Tim Sennett have been very helpful along the way. But really, I just want to say one thing, and I'll sit down. But we have a waiting list right now for project-based Section 8 housing choice vouchers of 5,302 families. Public housing, 4,255 families. Monahan Manor, 1,361 families. We're doing a good job, but we have a lot of work to do. Some good news, we negotiated with New Hampshire Housing, and we're going to receive 10 homeless vouchers, which certainly is very important. We negotiated really hard for that. And it doesn't close the deal, but at least maybe it's a start that we can continue to get the vouchers and move forward. But beyond that, just thank you very much, and hope you look favorably toward the second reading.
Thank you. Rich Mazzocchi?
Hi, good evening, board members. My name is Rich Mazzocchi. I'm with Tremont Development Partners. I'm here to speak about 230 as well. We're the co-developer with Nashua Housing and Redevelopment Authority on the Maynard Homes project. We helped to develop the project during construction and lease up, and then we step out of the project at that point in its own long-term by the Nashua Housing and Redevelopment Authority. I'd just like to touch on a couple of key points. The reason why this legislation is in front of you. One, Matt Sullivan touched on it, the timing is critical for us to get the project financing closed by the end of the year. A number of our financing partners have year-end deadlines and made it very clear that it needed to happen before year-end. That's why we've been having these discussions with Matt and Tim and the team to try to resolve this. Secondly, our construction pricing is locked in, and again, we've been holding on to that with the idea that the project gets started before the end of the year. And then just the third point I'd mention is the buildings are empty at this point that are part of the Phase 1 project. The existing residents have been relocated to other homes, and the buildings are ready to be demolished. The second point I'd like to make is just in terms of the amendment to the development agreement and why that's needed. We had some bumps in the road along the way with, number one, HUD delays and then a government shutdown that put the project in a holding pattern for some approvals from HUD. As a result, project start date was delayed until the end of the year. We had originally planned to close at the end of the summer. So with that shifting out of dates, we needed to shift out the end of the term of the pilot agreement to satisfy the financing terms. And this all relates back to a lot of the intricacies of the affordable housing program that we work with. At the end of the day, we're delivering 179, we and the Housing Authority, delivering 179 new units in place of the buildings that will be demolished. I'll be available to answer any questions that might come up when the legislation is introduced. Thank you.
Thank you. Paula Johnson?
Good evening. My name is Paula Johnson. I live at 15 Westbourne Drive. I was here the other night for the budget committee meeting, special Board of Aldermen meeting. I wasn't feeling good when I came in here, and I left halfway through, and I was even sicker when I left listening to all this money. First of all, I believe the resource center is needed, and I agree, half the money right now, halfway through the budget. I think you need to sit down and have a real good conversation on where exactly we're going to be going with that and how the money's going to be spent and how much money is needed, so it's budgeted. The second issue I have is that $3 million that's resting on me that Dr. Andre is asking for, and so is the Board of Education. We're in a budget season right now, and I get it with special ed. I served on that board. I've seen it. We have the special ed population and the ELL population rising, but our regular education is decreasing. So that's where we need to really sit down, as Dr. Andre says, a real good conversation about this. To give $3 million for the future right now, for the future of what are we going to be giving it for? half the money, $1.5 million right now. And right before budget, when the new board comes on, and I'll be more than happy to sit down with the Board of Education, I've sat with them before, and have this conversation, exactly what's going on with special ed. And yes, we don't know how many students are going to come in, how many are going to be out of district placements, so that's the hard thing to figure out. But just to say we need $3 million now for the future, I can't go along with that. And if I was sitting on that board, I'd be the only one probably voting against it. Like if I'm sitting on this board, I'd probably be the only one voting against it also. But we have to sit back and think about it. How is that money being used? And $3 million? I'm sorry. Give them what they need right now to get through the rest of this year till the new budget comes out. We all sit down, the new board has that conversation with the Board of Ed, Dr. Andre, and we come up with a game plan with this money. You know? This is money after the budget. If we needed this money so much, this money should have been in the budget, and Dr. Andre said he really needed a 9% increase. Well, if that's what you need, a 9% increase, which I don't know if you're going to be able to get it, but let's be honest about this and put it on the table, what you need that money for. So I hope you're going to consider not the $3 million, but maybe half of that at this point in time. Thank you very much.
That concludes public comment. Communications requiring final approval.
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding multi-year contract award, hydroelectric operation and maintenance agreement.
Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Madam President. I motion to accept, place on file, and approve a 3-year term extension with Essex Power Services Incorporated to provide operation and maintenance service for the Jackson Mills and Mine Falls hydroelectric facilities in the amount not to exceed $755,000 annually. Funding will be through Department 170 Hydroelectric Operations Fund, General Fund /54-Property Services.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries.
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding multi-year contract award, energy recovery generator maintenance agreement.
Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to accept, place on file, and approve the energy recovery generator 3-year maintenance contract with Southworth Milton Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $338,069. Funding will be through Department 169, Wastewater Fund, 54 Property Services.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding multi-year contract award, fleet tracking software.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve a 3-year renewal of fleet tracking software from Fleetio in the amount not to exceed $128,642. Funding will be through Department 168 Fleet Fund, General Fund, 71 Equipment.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding emergency PO request, Parc de la Renaissance in Bicentennial Park.
Alderman Senate.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve an emergency purchase order with Morin's Landscaping for improvements to Parc de la Renaissance and Bicentennial Park to include lighting and electrical upgrades, irrigation work, bollards, crosswalk improvements for ADA compliance, sod, anti-graffiti paint, and constructing access to abutting areas in association with the holiday stroll in the amount of $281,888.60.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Alderman Senate.
Thank you, Madam President. This has been spent, yes? I'm struggling to understand what we're voting on here.
Mayor?
Yes, the money's been spent. I don't know if this is an item that normally is voted on, I don't know, but somehow it got put on the agenda. But yes, the money's spent. This particular work is done, and you saw the result the other night.
Alderman Senate.
Maybe through you to Corporation Counsel, if it fails, does anything even happen?
We're not going to get the money back.
Well, no, certainly not. No, it sounds like a referendum.
Unspool all the electrical ones.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
That motion carries.
Communication has been received from Donna Graham, Legislative Affairs Manager, regarding 2026 Board of Aldermen calendar of committee dates.
Alderman O'Brien.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2026 Board of Aldermen calendar on committee dates.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Petitions,
None.
nominations, appointments, and elections.
None.
Reports of committees.
None.
Confirmation of mayor's appointments.
Greeley Park Advisory Committee.
There being no objection, I will confirm the following new appointment to the Greeley Park Advisory Committee: Susan McNamee, 94 Concord Street, Nashua, with a term to expire November 25th, 2028. Is Ms. McNamee here this evening? She will be sworn in at a later date.
Mine Falls Park Advisory Committee.
There being no objection, I'll confirm the following reappointment to the Mine Falls Park Advisory Committee: Laura Center, 18 Grassmere Lane, Nashua, with a term to expire November 1st, 2028. Is Ms. Center here with us this evening? She will be sworn in at a later date.
Airport Authority.
There being no objection, I'll confirm the following reappointment to the Airport Authority: David Heath, 4 Southgate Drive, Nashua, with a term to expire August 31st, 2030. I don't see Mr. Heath. He'll be sworn in at a later date. Unfinished business resolutions.
Second reading of R-25-212, establishing an expendable trust fund for the Nashua Resource Center funded by appropriations.
Alderman Dowd.
I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-25-212.
Heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank everyone for their due diligence last week. I had a personal engagement that when we moved the meeting, I was unable to be there for this meeting, but I know that the silver lining in all of the things that have happened in the last few months is that this has become a critical piece of what needs to happen in our city. And I know that city staff and aldermen, as well as public, have been asking a lot of questions about this. So I'm looking forward to making this happen in the city and hope that everyone here will support it.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. Of course, I'm going to support this. It's a great idea. I'm glad to my colleagues who put this together. The only thing I will add as we go through this one and the next regarding the Resource Center, unless you want that resource center to continue to be full and at capacity and people in high demand of the services that are rendered there, you have to change the policy of housing in the city. One has to work together with the other. Otherwise, you have just a resource center and no one, still nowhere for anyone to go. So it's not just having it. You have to have policy that says we're going to house people too. So you can't think this is a magic wand, and of course I don't think anyone does, but in 10 years when people are saying, well, they can just go to the housing center, well, you can never change your housing policy. There's nothing at the housing center except for some brochures, because that's what we have right now with probably every nonprofit, just brochures of where to go, because there's no housing. Thanks.
Alderman Lopez.
Just because there's attention to this issue, I want to point out to people who are unsheltered or looking for space, if you dial 211, that's how you access the coordinated entry system, so dial 211. To my colleagues, my at-large's point earlier, I think she's being gracious when she says it's a silver lining. I just want to point out the trend that this year we are managing to establish a resource center in December, which is not yet established. We have to have a meeting to discuss the ins and the outs of it. I understand that. And I don't have all the information there, so I don't want to be unnecessarily pessimistic about it. But I do want to point out, last year we were trying to do about the same time the warming station in its first iteration. And because of that, we were only able to launch it in January. We are continually behind the 8 ball as a city. We keep waiting until the cold weather hits and the fall hits to really start taking this issue seriously. And as much as my ward colleague, Alderman Tebow, sorry for mentioning my name, I can't remember your ward number, and I disagree in certain areas, I do agree not enough was being done throughout the year. And we know the quiet part here is a resource center is only going to be as good as the the navigation and emergency response capacity. If there isn't a place for people to stay at night, then they're going to have to make their own solutions. Their own solutions will drive them further and further out into, remote areas of Nashua, creating more of a public safety risk, creating a difficulty with outreach. The Resource Center is a crucial component, and it was part of the presentation that Public Health did last year. So was an emergency shelter. And at public comment, it was brought up, the 24-hour warming station. We need emergency shelter capacity. The city, it's been referenced multiple times that the city has emergency shelters. It does not. Nashua Soup Kitchen has an emergency shelter. Southern New Hampshire Rescue Mission has a mission, but the city does not have the ability to really put their thumb on the scale when we have a housing crisis full of Nashua people. We have to lead. And much like the crisis that we saw last week, much like the Safe Station, where we lead, we can mobilize resources that we can't otherwise pull together because everybody is holding back, because everybody is afraid of what the next big decision coming down from Washington is going to be. So the Resource Center is essential. We need that point, but we cannot lose sight of the fact that it's only a stopgap and we need more.
Anyone else? Seeing none, the motion is for final passage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, and Resolution 25-212 is declared duly adopted.
Second reading of R-25-213, establish an expendable trust fund for the Nashua Resource Center funded by donations.
Alderman Senate.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-25-213.
Motion is for final passage. For any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, and Resolution 25-213 is declared duly adopted.
Second reading of R-25-214, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $59,499.98 of unanticipated revenue from the United States Internal Revenue Service into the Capital Equipment Reserve Fund.
Alderman Dowd.
I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-25-214 by roll call pursuant to Charter Section 49.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Gregg.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
No.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes?
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wiltshire.
Yes.
13 yeas, 1 nay.
That motion carries, and Resolution 25-214 is declared duly adopted.
Second reading of R-25-215, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $3 million of assigned fund balance into Fund 7074, Special Education Expendable Trust Fund.
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-25-215 by roll call pursuant to Charter Section 49. Could I speak to it, please?
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you. At the budget meeting last week, the leadership for Nashua School District, our superintendent, the CFO came to speak to us about the situation that's going on. Post that meeting, I sought to better understand exactly what was going on from a high level so I could understand it and then explain it to my constituents as to why I will be supporting this tonight. And that is essentially the cost to educate our special needs children here in Nashua. While the overall student population has dropped, one population that's growing is our special needs population. The costs to educate them have grown exponentially. And so the school district, for those of you watching at home, same corporation, different division. So when you look at how monies are budgeted and allocated and such, at the end of fiscal year 25, they returned $4 million back to the city. And those were mainly due to benefits. So they used some of the monies that they had for salaries to pay the increasing costs of the special education teachers' contract services. We're not hiring enough. So this money helps towards that. We are getting more money from the state, not enough to cover it for this. And, you know, so these are costs that are here, and I'm going to support it. And if there's anything that I got wrong, I did see them in the audience. So I rehearsed this in front of my mirror tonight to make sure I got it right. But I am going to support this tonight, and I appreciate the extra communication behind this. Thanks.
Further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Gregg.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
14 yeas, 0 nays.
That motion carries, and Resolution 25-215 is declared duly adopted.
Second reading of R-25-216 relative to the supplemental appropriation of $300,000 of assigned fund balance into anticipated Fund 7090 Resource Center Expendable Trust Fund.
Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-25-216 by roll call pursuant to Charter Section 49, and I would like to speak to it.
Alderman Tebow.
Thank you. So, I just, a couple of things I want to say about this particular one. First off, when we passed the encampment legislation, I clearly said, and I still say to this day, that I didn't pass it because that's the only thing we wanted to do. We wanted to make sure that we didn't stop doing things. And this is another step in that process. And unfortunately, to some people, we can't put it up tomorrow. But you got to start somewhere, and this is where we're starting. And I truly look forward to seeing this come to fruition and to not stop at the Resource Center. And I think people think that that's what we're going to do, and I'm hoping the next board continues to do, and most of us are on this board, continue to do that. I was at the Arlington Community Center last week for Wards 7, 8, and 9, and of a community outreach thing that we were doing. And someone from Ward 7 had mentioned to me, or mentioned to the group, oh, they're giving us $300,000 for the Resource Center. That's not going to be enough, and that's all the city's going to give us. And I corrected her only in the nicest way possible, because I wasn't trying to be disruptive, to the fact that I know Alderman Clemmons, Alderman Kelly, and I think maybe Alderman Wilshire are working on something to get more money for this, and hopefully get it to $1 million. If I'm getting that wrong, Alderwoman Kelly or Alderwoman Wilshire, please correct me on that. So I wanted to tell them that there's more coming. This is not the end. It's not $300,000 and we're done. We're going to continue to work on this problem. The other issue is, I heard in the crowd a couple of things, right? Just in general. If we put more money in the budget, taxes were going to go up higher. I don't think people want that, right? So this is a way to pay for some of these things without the taxes going up, right? The other piece of it is and Director Bagley can maybe correct this, you're not just splitting the $300,000 because it's a 12-month period. Some of that cost is starting up the Resource Center. So it's not an easy just cut in half and just say 150 now, 150 later. You might need more to start it up because there's other costs associated with starting up something like that, right? It's not just half. So I don't agree with that. Pay half now, pay half later. The money's not going anywhere. They'll still have that money. And then they can come to us next year and tell us what they need during the budget season. So I'm all for this, and I hope you guys support it. And as Alderman from Ward 4 said, continue to do things to support the unsheltered and make sure that we're going in the right direction to make this city, as Mr. Keating always says, to be free of homelessness. So, thank you.
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you. If I could ask, I did see Director Bagley in the audience. Referring to her communication where she lists out the total expenses, first of all, thank you very much for the itemized description. You total it out to 347, 238, you round up to 350. Is there anything that is going to be left kind of on the cutting room floor from the 300,000 that we're appropriating to this? Because there's a gap there of $50,000.
Director Bagley?
Good evening, thank you. Bobby Bagley, Director for the Division of Public Health and Community Services. So when the budget is put together, it's an estimate of the cost that's expected. There are some line items in here where you can see that there's some zero for the insurance. There's an estimate of maintenance and an estimate of utilities. And so, as it was stated, this could actually be a little bit higher because I don't have those final numbers as of yet. Even the estimate for the rent or the lease, we estimated that at 90,000. We still don't know what that number is going to look like. And so, generally, when you put a budget together, you put it together based on information that you believe the costs are going to be. So it's an estimate until I get some really final numbers there. So we did round it up to 350 only because of some of those unknowns in there. I don't know what is going to be left over or if there's going to be some gaps in there without having those final numbers. So until we get the final information about the lease and then understand better what those utilities are going to look like, this is what my approximate guesstimation is of this budget, if that makes sense.
All set? Okay. Further discussion. Alderman Jettie.
Thank you. So, through you, could we ask Director Bagley to respond to, what Mr. Ferrio pointed out, that this budget is for a year, but, he's wondering why we're not just cutting it to 150 because the year is half over. Could you respond to that?
Director Bagley?
I did put this together based on an annual cost.
So,
But could I answer that a little further?
So,
There are, there's startup costs that aren't in there, so like we were just talking today, like washer dryer, we need that. It's not in there. So, it's good to have enough to make sure we can get the thing going once we lease the space.
okay, so if I could follow up.
Alderman Jettie.
So my understanding is that this 300,000 is going to be put into the expendable trust fund that we just established. So whatever money you don't spend this year, this money will stay in that expendable trust fund and be used after the year is over?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I'm tired.
It's okay. I bet you
It's
will.
been a long day.
Okay, well, I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying
Yes,
to give you a
thank
chance to make your
Thank you,
case
thank
here.
you. I appreciate it very much.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about that?
Thank you.
Okay.
Alderwoman Kelly?
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on the conversation around how much we're putting in here. Director Bagley and I, as well as other aldermen, have been talking about this for weeks. This is a very conservative starting point. The point of the trust fund is to allow it to continue to grow, and so there have been discussions about what does that look like in the go forward, but we want to make sure that they can get it established, get it off the ground. We still don't know location quite yet, so giving them that opportunity to figure it out before we start to figure out exactly how we want to continue moving forward. So the work's being done. This is a great starting point. Let's get it done.
Alderman Lopez.
I think anybody who's deeply interested in the operations and the accountability should get involved, should volunteer, should be participating in the oversight meetings, attend the public health meetings, because if you spot savings or you have a better way to do it, I'm sure everybody will be on board for it. But I think making sure there's enough to get it up and going and off the ground is very important if we want this to be a success, and we do, because this is a major investment in public safety and in public health that we need to be addressing. And we're behind the 8 ball on this. So trying to nickel and dime at the beginning when you need to put enough in and there is oversight and accountability involved, everyone at this table has the ability to be monitoring this more closely and coordinating with the director as this is unfolding.
Further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Gregg.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
14 yeas, 0 nays.
That motion carries, and Resolution 25-216 is declared duly adopted.
Second reading of R-25-217 relative to the supplemental appropriation of $220,000 of assigned fund balance into Fund 7080 Police Overtime Expendable Trust Fund.
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-25-217 by roll call pursuant to Charter Section 49. Could I speak to it briefly?
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you very much. We learned in the Budget Committee that this fund that that Nashua PD budgets for every year has been pretty much drained. This kind of puts money back into the fund. Couple of reasons for that. The police are short-staffed. They have to pay overtime in order to cover shifts. Second, we had a major incident in the city back in late September, and many of those on-duty or off-duty police had to be called back on duty, thus got paid overtime and drained this fund, so we need to put some money back into it. So I would appreciate everyone's support on this.
Discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Gregg.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
14 yeas, 0 nays.
That motion carries, and Resolution 25-217 is declared duly adopted.
Second reading of R-25-218 relative to the supplemental appropriation of $1.5 million of assigned fund balance into Fund 7026 Capital Equipment Reserve Fund.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-25-218 by roll call pursuant to Charter Section 49. I'd like to speak to it briefly.
Alderman Dowd.
This passed unanimously at the Budget Committee. The capital reserve is not up, does not have enough money in it as it is. This is another way to put some money into it so that we can ensure we have enough money to buy the equipment that we're looking at for this coming year.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm actually going to ask to have myself removed as an endorser. After due diligence, I felt like these should have been included in the budget that was created, this funding. If there's something that needed to be there and served, they could have created in the budget. So I'm going to be voting no on this tonight.
Further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Gregg.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
No.
Alderman Thibodeau.
No.
Alderman Govea.
No.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
No.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd,
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
10 yeas, 4 nays.
That motion carries, and Resolution 25-218 is declared duly adopted.
Second reading of R-25-219, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $1.5 million of assigned fund balance into Fund 6600 Benefits Self-Insurance Fund.
Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for final passage of R-25-219 by roll call pursuant to Charter Section 49.
For the motion, is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Gregg.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
14 yeas, 0 nays.
That motion carries, and Resolution 25-219 is declared duly adopted.
Second reading of R-25-220, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $200,000 of assigned fund balance into Department 194 contingency account 70100, general contingency for the intended purpose of covering expenses to clean up Main Street in the riverfront.
Alderman Tebow.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-25-220 by roll call pursuant to Charter Section 49, and I'd like to speak to it.
Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Madam President. So in the budget meeting, Director Hannum went over this. This is in response to some of the cleanup that needed to be done on Main Street, kind of like the Manchester as a Clean team. The difference is here that it's unionized, so this is extra. I believe it's overtime to have, or additional staff for the Public Works Department to help us clean up Main Street and the riverfront area.
Discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Gregg.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
No.
Alderman Thibodeau.
No.
Alderman Govea.
No.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
No.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
No.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
9 yeas, 5 nays.
That motion carries, and Resolution...
No.
It's 2/3.
Oh, it needs 2/3.
It fails.
I'm sorry. That motion fails.
Second reading of R-25-222, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $325,000 of assigned fund balance into Department 194 contingency account 70100, general contingency for the intended purpose of covering community development block grant and lead program expenses due to the federal government shutdown.
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion for indefinite postponement of R-25-222 by roll call pursuant to Charter Section 49.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Gregg.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
No.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
No.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
12 yeas, 2 nays.
That motion carries, and Resolution 25-223 is declared duly adopted.
Madam President,
The motion was to indefinitely postpone.
Correct. I'm just-
All right, I'm sleeping up here.
It's been a long month.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion. May I?
Nothing on the
There's
floor.
nothing to make a motion
Oh,
on.
but I can still make one to bring something back.
Reconsideration.
Well, no, on a previous, I was to make a motion for indefinite postponement for 220 that just failed.
Up to you.
Okay.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion for indefinite postponement of R-25-220.
You've heard the motion for indefinite postponement. Discussion. Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I don't know why we'd want to not do this. And no, I mean, I don't want to postpone it. I think it should come back at some point. And we can certainly bring it back next year when we have a completely different board. I don't understand why we wouldn't want to clean up the downtown like Manchester does and other places do. I didn't hear one debate about it from anyone that voted no. I'd like Director Hannum to come up and explain what this is, because maybe people don't understand what it is.
I think people know what it is, Alderman Tebow.
Well, I mean, if people weren't here for the last couple of weeks, they might not watch the budget meeting. Just saying.
I believe he knows what it is.
Okay.
Okay. Motion before us is for indefinite postponement of R-25-220. Further discussion? Alderman Dowd.
Yeah, it's really a moot point, because in a couple of weeks, this is going to disappear and go away. And even if we do indefinite postponement, I'll go to Corporation Council, the next board can bring it up again, can it? Yes. So it's sort of a moot point.
No. If the vote goes the same way as it did before, the indefinite postpone motion will not pass. So I think what happens next year is probably irrelevant for your consideration right now.
Further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll for indefinite postponement of Resolution 25-220?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Gregg.
No.
Alderman Rand.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
No.
Alderman Sullivan.
No.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
No.
Alderman Tebow.
No.
Alderman Clee.
No.
Alderman Dowd.
No.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
7 yeas, 7 nays.
Motion fails.
Second reading of R-25-223 relative to the supplemental appropriation of $95,784.04 of assigned fund balance into grant project activity 1092 fiscal year 2020 lead paint hazard control grant.
Alderman Tebow.
I'd like to make a motion. Yeah, I got it. Final passage of R-25-223 by roll call pursuant to Charter Section 49, and I do not want to speak to it.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Gregg.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
No.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
13 yeas, 1 nay.
That motion carries, and Resolution 25-223 is declared duly adopted.
Second reading of R-25-224 relative to the supplemental appropriation of $900,000 of assigned fund balance into capital project activity, Police Department roof repair and replacement.
Alderman Dowd.
I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R 25224 by roll call pursuant to Charter Section 49. I'd like to speak to it briefly.
Alderman Dowd.
Yeah, this had a debate at the Budget Committee. It was explained as to why this cost increase happened, and if there's anybody that doesn't know and they want it explained, I'll try to explain it. Nope.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes, I would just like to add, besides the Budget Committee, this was also heard by the Infrastructure Committee, which supports this. We have many roofs, many years of the spending cap. We have stuff that should have been repaired and isn't. We got 6 fire stations and now the police station. So it needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Gregg.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wiltshire.
Yes.
14 yeas, 0 nays.
That motion carries, and Resolution 25-224 is declared duly adopted. Unfinished business ordinances.
Second reading of O-25-082 regarding proposals for the development of city-owned real property.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion for indefinite postponement of O-25-082, and if I could speak to it.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. This came to Personnel Administrative Affairs last week, but I was, as you heard earlier, I was out of the state for 5.5 days for work in my other practice location, and I couldn't attend. But I would ask that everyone support the motion for indefinite postponement. I think getting nitty-gritty into this original thought that I had this late into term, probably not best for getting a cohesive plan together on legislation like this. But I wanted to explain where and why I brought it forward. So as chairman of PUDC, I've gotten to participate in 2 RFP bids for developing of housing, one Nimco and now Elm Street. And each time I've listened to the developers come in and say, our research has shown this, and every single one of them is usually much different than the other. Their research is usually what's going to make them the most money, or what's designed their business plan or the way they do business. So I thought a meaningful way to help balance the ZBA that's packed with lobbyists, the planning board is packed with lobbyists, is to have someone like the Board of Health weigh in on the science of housing. And that's where the initial thought came, because we have that board, the last lobbyists left, the previous chairman, lobbyist for the ADA, is gone, so now it's no longer that type of board. And they have the expertise to actually explain to this board and future boards what health care and housing would mean for the policies of the city. And right now we have some pretty hodgepodge types of policies. And I mean, the last RFP I was on, that the goal was to selection committee narrow it down to 2, and the public will narrow it down to 1. But selection committee like 1, which was the selection committee liked 1 and the citizens liked 1. That seems it was both the same person, but somehow forces have come into play to ensure that what was initially told in an RFP process doesn't work. And it's just keeping everything so siloed, and having like public conversations with the health department and other experts would just make much more sense, instead of this weird policies that are designed to really shaft the working class person in the city. And I thought science could bring a balance to that, but I don't think it's ready for right now, and hopefully other members will bring it forth next year. And there's other things that I'll write about in the newspaper, but that's all for now.
Alderman Senate.
Well, thank you, Madam President. I will support the motion to indefinitely postpone this. I do agree that in its current form, it's not ready for prime time. However, as a sponsor on the ordinance, I am committed in the next term to taking what we discussed at the Personnel and Administrative Affairs Committee in regard to this. It's some, in my mind, very simple homework that we can do to fine tune it. And I'm looking forward to doing that work, recrafting this, and bringing it forward in the next term to continue the discussion. Thank you.
Alderman Lopez.
So I will be voting against indefinite postponement. I have a pretty good read of the room, so I am probably going to die on that hill. But and I have to acknowledge the practicality of there's not much time left in this legislative year to explore this further. But I think the idea does have merit. I think it is something we need to look at, that we constantly refer to housing as a public health crisis. And we talk about the impact that, our housing priorities as a city have on the public health department. We watch our public health department growing in emergency response to this. So I think maybe we do need to start looking at some more systemic issues and trying to figure out exactly if there's ways that we can prevent some of these housing crises from happening for the individuals it's happening to. I also want to clarify, because one of the previous speakers mentioned that he was away during the same week that I was. We were not on our honeymoon together. He had his own trip. I had my own trip. I didn't know he was leaving.
But there would be nothing wrong with it if there was.
Right.
If we were.
But, I mean, I married my wife, so sorry.
Motion before us is for indefinite postponement. Further discussion. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Not necessary if you don't want to. You just do a voice vote if you want.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry.
I like to hear Dan.
Well, I am really sleeping tonight.
It's cold.
The motion is for indefinite postponement of ordinance 2582. All those in favor of indefinite postponement, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ordinance 2582 is declared indefinitely postponed.
Vote nay.
Business unfinished at previous meeting?
I forgot to vote nay. I'm getting caught up with whatever else is going around.
New business resolutions.
First reading of R-25-230, authorizing amended development agreements with payment in lieu of taxes pilot for Phase 1 of the Maynard Homes redevelopment.
Alderman O'Brien.
Madam President, I move to suspend the rules for a second reading of R-25-230 and acceptance of two development agreements, Maynard Phase 1 redevelopment, Maynard 4 project, and Maynard Phase 1 redevelopment, Maynard number 9 project.
Madam President, call for sponsors first.
Oh, yeah, I should have asked for additional sponsors. Alderwoman Kelly, Alderman Dowd, Alderman Clee, Alderman Lopez, Alderman Senate, Alderman Moran, Alderman Gregg, Alderman O'Brien, and myself. Okay, so you've heard the motion to suspend. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Alderman O'Brien. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to read the...
Second reading of R-25-230, authorizing amended development agreements with payment in lieu of taxes pilot for Phase 1 of the Maynard Homes redevelopment.
Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for final passage of R-25-230.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam President. I think I was here when we discussed this at infrastructure, and it was a number of weeks ago when we talked about it, but I'm wondering if maybe Director Sullivan could, or through you to Director Sullivan, could help out on some information. Since I understand, I did read through the agreement this afternoon when we got it, but I was just curious. I don't know if we answered this question at infrastructure. How much property tax revenue do we currently get from there? And how much could we be getting if this deal didn't go through?
Director Sullivan.
Good evening, Matt Sullivan, Community Development Director. I always get nervous about these questions that I know I was asked before, and I responded. And
Why are you pointing at me?
Because
So aggressive.
No, I'm glad you asked this question, Alderman Sullivan. We did discuss this at the infrastructure meeting. The current arrangement with the Housing Authority is actually a payment is made across all properties that the Housing Authority has within the city of Nashua. And so currently, across all of those properties, about $250,000 in tax payment is made. I don't know if I said the exact same thing at the time, but generally our goal has been to incrementally move the Housing Authority properties, recognizing that they are creating public housing opportunity, closer towards a full market value of whatever those properties are demanding from a tax or from a service perspective in the community. And so as you can see within the numbers presented here for both the 4% and the 9% sides of the projects, we are doing just that. These are much, as a proportional factor of the Housing Authority's holding in the community, these numbers are much bigger than that current $250,000 number. So ultimately, through all of the Housing Authority's redevelopments, we are working to provide more of a tax payment towards providing city services than what currently exists. Frankly, that's been the subject of a lot of difficult but really productive conversations with their leadership, but they understand that while affordable housing is critical for the community, that can't mean that the tax burden falls to the other taxpayers within the city fully, that they also need to be paying their fair share, if you will. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Jettie.
Thank you. So if Director Sullivan could return to the witness stand.
I won't point at you, Alderman Jettie.
Ooh.
Just kidding.
Wow.
So from what you said earlier, you talked about how there was some kind of a problem that was discovered that you're curing with this legislation. So I'd like to know what's the problem and how is this curing it? And secondly, you talked about how this is going to be extended for an additional 1 or 2 years, but you also talked about it starting a year earlier. So what was the total, under the original agreement, what was the total amount of tax money that we were going to get? And what's the total going to be under this new formula?
Sure. So Alderman Jettie, to address your first question, the fundamental issue here, and certainly folks in the audience can help me address this question if needed, but the fundamental issue was that ultimately some of the financing entities needed to see that there would be a 15-year free and clear pilot. And what I mean by that is that there would be a 15-year period from the date that these buildings go into service, which will ultimately be several years from now, meaning they're actually housing residents. There'll be a 15-year period where the tax payments are locked in. They're clearly set between the city and the Housing Authority. In our initial pilot agreement, the development agreements that you saw as part of the previously approved legislation, we were 1 year short. There was, in fact, a 14-year period in which the tax payments were locked in. And that was because the year of service was adjusted to be a little bit too early in that pilot structure. So what we're doing here is giving the Housing Authority and the financing entities a 15-year period that there's a predictable payment being made to the city. That's what's ultimately needed to make this project work. Relative to your second line of questioning, Alderman Jettie, about the total tax payments, admittedly, I'm going to have to go back to the old development agreement and get those numbers. But what I can say is that ultimately, it represents about an increase from the initial development agreements to these. We're looking at approximately, I believe, a $200,000 increase in the pilot payment being made to the city for both the 4% and the 9%. So $200,000 overall is what we're seeing for a change in value. But again, as I mentioned before, there are a couple factors at play there. One, the pilot is starting a year earlier. They're starting tax payments earlier. The pilot agreement is going to extend a year longer, meaning that rather than they start to pay either a fair market value or a statutorily agreed to value in 2042, they'll now pay in 2043. And then we added in, because they're getting an additional year of pilot agreement, we added in what we've sort of termed as an escalation payment, meaning a one-time sort of, I don't want to call it a balloon payment, but a one-time, very sudden increase in the tax payment in year 2041. So ultimately, all of those things working together represent about $200,000 increase in the value. But I can certainly go back and look at those numbers a little more closely. I don't want that to be in the record as the number, but that's a general figure of what we're looking at.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing no one, the motion is for final passage of Resolution 25-230. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. And Resolution 25-230 is declared duly adopted.
First reading of R-25-231, authorizing the mayor to enter into a revised federal aid program project agreement with the State of New Hampshire Department of Transportation for the purpose of designing a new pedestrian bridge over the Nashua River.
Additional sponsors: Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Moran, Alderman Lopez, Alderman Klee, Alderman Dowd, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee.
First reading of R-25-232, relative to the acceptance of $33,000 from the United States Department of Homeland Security and the State of New Hampshire Department of Safety into Fire Department Grant Activity 2025 Homeland Security Grant Program, Sohegan Mutual Aid Response Team Hazmat Equipment.
Additional sponsors: Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Gregg, Alderman Moran, Alderman Lopez, Alderman Sullivan, Alderman Senate, Alderman Tebow, Alderman Klee, Alderman Dowd, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Human Affairs Committee.
First reading of R-25-233, relative to the acceptance of $10,000 from the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation into Public Health and Community Services Grant Activity, Speaking Our Minds podcast.
Additional sponsors: Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Moran, Alderman Senate, Alderman Dowd, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Human Affairs Committee.
First reading of R-25-234, relative to the acceptance of $12,000 from Dartmouth Hitchcock into Public Health Community Services Grant Activity, Substance Misuse Prevention Efforts.
Additional sponsors: Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Moran, Alderman Senate, Alderman Tebow, Alderman Klee, Alderman Dowd, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Human Affairs Committee. New business ordinances.
None.
Period for general public comment. We have 3 individuals signed up. Lori Ortolano.
Lori Ortolano, 41 Berkeley Street. I wanted to address the Ethics Committee with you. I sent all of you some emails regarding rules on that committee and a desire to see some things changed over there. We have an NRO that permits a committee to exist. And if you don't want the committee to exist, change the NRO. Because what I'm finding is you don't want the committee to exist. Right now, it only has 3 people available to serve on it. And they scheduled a hearing for December 4th on an ethics complaint that I brought forward. Very short, very simple. It came through in September. And when I got there were only 3 cards on the table. And one of the people didn't show up because there had been a death in the family, which the chair had confirmed he knew about before the meeting. When I said, why didn't you just tell us? Because the consultant comes down and travels from Portsmouth to be the attorney to counsel that board, and there wasn't a quorum. And he said, because you would have gotten mad. I can assure you I wouldn't have if there had been a death in a family. That was a reasonable thing. The gentleman, while Attorney Bush chairs the committee, and he needs to be replaced by an attorney who's capable of chairing that committee. You know, he serves on a judicial selection committee with the Governor Ayotte appointed. He's a long-term friend of Governor Ayotte. These are personal friendships that get you these seats. He serves on an ethics committee for the judiciary. He should be knowledgeable about ethics. He is not. I have never met a more incompetent man on right to know and ethics in running a meeting than this guy. He's very, very poor. Now, he was angry in that meeting, and I don't know if it was done to try and incite anger in me because I've got this court battle coming up, and maybe he just wanted to try and make me mad. But several times he made comments that I was confused about. First of all, he said 2 other people recused themselves, and I interrupted and said, "What's the reason?" He said, "I'm not going to tell you." Now, I've been asking him for months. I knew one person recused. Ordinarily, in a court proceeding, you have a right to know why somebody recused themselves. He refused. He wouldn't address it. And then I found out somebody else recused themselves. Both parties, both individuals have a right to know
30
that.
seconds.
I don't know why it was done. As the meeting was then canceled, he said, "Listen, we're going to give proper grieving time. We're going to meet again in January, and we're going to hold a hearing on the merits." I interrupted him again and said, "I thought we were going to screen the complaint first. Are we skipping that, or have you accepted it? That's great." He got very angry, explosive. The gentleman who traveled down from Portsmouth, Attorney Sullivan, said, "I can explain that. Let me explain it."
Your
He
time
said
is
no.
up.
Twice he told him to shut his mouth and said, "I'm not going to allow you to talk to her. I'm going to get up and leave before I listen to you talk to her."
Ms. Ortolano, your time is up.
Okay. I think you got a really big problem with this guy. Clearly, he doesn't want the job. And you haven't staffed a committee to be able to do it.
Next speaker,
Don't have one
please.
if you don't want one.
Bob Keating.
Bob Keating, 5 Coben Woods Drive, member of Granite State Organizing Project. So my comments is follow up the decisions that have been made about the Resource Center. And it's grouped into the Warming Center, the Resource Center, and what, for want of a better term, the 24/7 center. So just grouping it into 3 concepts, a date, money, and the last one is collaboration. In terms of date, April 15th, many of us will have that date in our mind in terms of taxes due, and that's the same date that the warming station will close. And so taxes are due on the 15th, and on the 15th, I hope that we see it collectively as a community that our plan will have been fully developed and implemented for what happens to the people then at that point in time. So that's the first date. The money is some of it I had described before. Think about it, $750 is what the cost is for a studio here on Temple Street. That would be $9,000 a year. We'll go for more on the other side, a market rate of $1,500, so that's $18,000. And so roughly putting this, we had 100 people we were estimating that was in the encampment and downtown. So if you take that, it comes out to about $900,000 per year it would cost to house people in a studio at $750. If it was $15,000, you just make that double that particular figure, and you're looking at the amount of money that we would need to house people of that. So it's not the biggest number, and that doesn't count any monies that people would be getting in terms of their own income, vouchers, and things of that kind. So finally, collaboration. I think there's been a lot of collaboration, but I think that there is more needed as we move forward here to get to this next step. And we start with the people who are unhoused, are homeless, the we call it
30
people with
seconds.
lived experience, the nonprofits that have been involved, but I think more, and the public in general, so that by the time we get to that due date of April 15th, we'll have the plan. So thank you.
Paula Johnson?
Good evening, Paula Johnson again, 15 West Bloomfield Drive. I can't wait to get on this board and start working with some of you. I think it's going to be a great board, and I think we can work together collaboratively. I just want a couple of things I want to say. You know, when the board was talking about R-25-216, the mayor had stated that it was asked why no startup costs. It wasn't included. But anybody who does a business plan that's not in government knows that if you're going to get a loan, you have to have that business plan and show all the startup costs and everything that you're going to need to get that loan. I think it's silly that we don't do this here in government, because then you're not disclosing exactly all the money that you need. The other thing is, I'm just kind of curious, does anybody know where everybody went from the encampment? Because I did get a text message from Ken telling me that he was taking down his tent, and he was kind of sad about the whole thing, and he had family members helping him. So maybe after the meeting, I can find out what happened, where they went to, because I don't want to see this, that we're going to be playing chess here, that they're moving from one place to the other. And I heard that they were thinking about going to Massachusetts, so you know they'd probably be right at the railroad, right by the mall. And you know, if we're going to be working at this with the resource center and trying to help these homeless people, we need to come up with a game plan here, not just Band-Aids all the time, and that's what we seem to do. The resource center, we're investing money into it, $300,000, but we have no business plan. We have no startup costs. You know, you can't do that in business. And I don't know how many, I know that Alderman Moran is self-employed. He understands about business. My husband and I had a business when I was on the board the first time, and on the Board of Education back when, those days when I was younger. We had to come up with a business plan. You know, you have to have that plan, because you need to know how much money you're going to need for yourself and how much money you're going to have for the business. And everybody knows the business always gets paid before you do. So if your business can't support you, you have to figure out how many jobs you have to work till your business can support you. So I'm just saying that I hope we can sit down, come up with good plans here. So if we're going to help the homeless community, it's not going to be Band-Aids and say, well, we missed it in 2025.
seconds.
Let's try to get it in 2035, 10 years from now. Thank you very much.
Remarks by members of the board. I'm going to start over here tonight. Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I was at that ethics meeting as well, and didn't go exactly like that. I think both parties had conflicts. I didn't say a word. I just want to say that the recusals only help the person that was speaking. They don't help me. So they only help her case. And unfortunately, the third person did have a death in the family, so can't plan around that. Whether or not they're supposed to tell us ahead of time, that's not my call. As far as the legislation about the cleanup, I was disappointed that I couldn't bring Director Hannum up. Usually when we ask a director to come up, we're able to get them to at least explain, especially if I didn't explain it well, which is possible. She knew the in and outs more than I did on that. So I'm disappointed on that. I'm going to work. I think it's an affront to some of the small businesses downtown. I think that was the listening session we had, that we could have used more cleanliness downtown. And I think I'll be looking to work with her next year to try to do something to continue that. So thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Thibodeau.
Thank you, Madam President. On that item, the 220, the reason for my no vote, because the River Walk project was so well managed, it should have been planned that it was going to need a cleanup crew. So that should have been a budgeted item. Main Street's been here for quite a few years, and if we haven't noticed that it was getting dirtier, then shame on us. So that should have been budgeted also. I agree both of them should be taken care of and cleaned and maintained, but those should have been budgeted items. That was the only reason why I voted no on that item.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you. Ditto.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes, for what it's worth, I'm going to express, tag on to Alderman Theobald. I'm very disappointed. I was at the listening, and I heard from our businesses downtown. If you got to take a snapshot of Nashua and make a postcard of it, what part of the city would you take that snapshot in? And it would be the downtown. But this is not picking up trash we're talking about. It's talking about human waste, which is a biological hazard. It has to be picked up by people who are trained so that if there is anything in that waste that can communicate to them, that they can avoid. So it's not just anybody else. You need the training and everything else. Number two, I don't want the businesses downtown to continue doing it because their exposure. And we had Public Works through compromise. I think I'm one of the many who support labor. And the Public Works labor crew agreed to this. We moved and compromised and was there in this agreement. So therefore, it is a little different than Manchester, but we compromised with the labor force. So it was a good bill. So it is what it is. You all had your particular reasons, and I respect that. But I do hope, and I will work with you, Alderman Theobald, to try to bring it back within the new board. It needs to be done. If we're going to keep the postcard image of Nashua and assist our businesses to make it a healthy environment downtown. Thank you.
Okay. Committee announcements. Alderman O'Brien.
Yeah, thank you. I got one.
Well, good.
Actually, I got two.
Oh, even better.
No, that's a matter of opinion.
Okay.
Tomorrow night, 12/11, there will be a joint committee of infrastructure and the police commission. What this is in regard to working on the new training facility.
Tomorrow's
Tomorrow at 6
12:10.
p.m. Huh?
Tomorrow is 12:10.
Ooh.
Yes.
Am I got the right date?
Yes, you do.
Yeah. No, I have.
Right day, wrong date.
I gave you the wrong pneumatic. Sorry.
wrong.
12:10, so I was partially correct.
got the
After
month
that
right.
meeting at 7 p.m., there'll be a regular committee of infrastructure. So I wasn't totally wrong.
Oh, you weren't. Alderman Moran?
I'm going to be canceling PDC this month. Any legislation that's left of that committee will have to be brought back and reintroduced next year.
Alderman Lopez?
Human Affairs Committee has a meeting on December 15th.
Alderman Sullivan?
The BIDA committee meets tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. in room 208.
No committees on this side of the room? Okay. Alderman O'Brien?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that the December 9th meeting of the Board of Aldermen be adjourned.
Motion is to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
We are adjourned at 9:35 PM. Thank you, everyone.